Sure, this film tells how the West was won, but why does no one ever ask, how is the West doing? How does the West feel? What are the West's dreams? Hey Frankenstein. How the West Was Won is a 1962 giant Warner Brothers epic. I've seen a little bit of it. Besides having great big names in it and being about the West and the winning thereof, I don't know much about it. It's another long one, and this one's probably worth it. How the West Was Won. Spanning the decades from 1830 to 1880, we find 4 generations of the Prescott family as they move from the East Coast to San Francisco, telling the tale of how the West was won. This movie's done with 5 chapters, 4 directors, over 25 big-name stars, more than 12,000 extras, including several Native American tribes, a whole mess of buffalo, and one big honkin' camera. This is a big, sprawling story, and it's based off a series of articles from Life magazine, and it's MGM's last real grand epic. So no expense was really spared, and the sound and the look of it is pretty amazing. They used some great directors here that were known a lot for their Western output. Probably the biggest of all is John Ford. He did Stagecoach, The Searchers, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and his segment is The Civil War. Henry Hathaway, the director of True Grit and The Sons of Katie Elder, he did 3 segments: The River, The Plains, and The Outlaws. George Marshall directed Destry Rides Again and The Blue Dahlia. His segment was The Railroad. And Richard Thorpe, we already kind of know. He is the uncredited director of the Roman galley scenes in Ben-Hur, and he also directed Jailhouse Rock and Ivanhoe. And he's not even credited in this movie. He did the transitional historical scenes between the chapters. And the stars that came out tonight, the big name Hollywood Western stars included, of course, if you're going to have a Western with every known star, you got to have John Wayne, so he's top of the list. Then there's Jimmy Stewart, Henry Fonda, and Gregory Peck. The family that we follow, the Prescotts, they are Carl Malden, Agnes Moorehead, Debbie Reynolds, and George Peppard. And of course, there are some great Western faces, from Walter Brennan to Harry Morgan to Eli Wallach. I could go on. I just did about 10 because there were so many to talk about. And this is a movie made of set pieces. You have the chapters, and within the chapters there's exciting scenes. In the first segment, there's the Bushwhackers, and the Bushwhackers is a violent segment between the Prescotts and with Jimmy Stewart helping out and these sidewinding polecat thieves, and all of it is just very good, nice and visceral, and you're like, I didn't think I would see that in a movie made in the early 60s. Then there's the Rapids, where they used a different kind of filming technique that was very amazing. There's the Cheyenne attack, the Battle of Shiloh, the Arapaho retaliation against the railroad with the Buffalo Stampede is just wonderful, and the sound is great, and it's just buffalo upon buffalo upon buffalo upon buffalo. And every good Western needs a good train robbery, and this one's got one. All this was shot and shown in Cinerama. That's a 3-camera and a 3-projector system. And what you have is a gigantic curved viewing area, so that you're kind of enveloped by the film. And the directors and the actors hated it. For one, you had a lot of room that you need to worry about. So they had a lot of area where people could not be, or they would be picked up by the filming process. True close-ups were impossible to do. The most you usually see is maybe waist up, a medium shot, and even to get that, you might have the camera 18 inches away. And because of that screen curve, you couldn't have actors looking straight on at each other because it would look strange. It wouldn't look right. It looked like they weren't looking at anything. So the directors didn't like it because they couldn't film what they wanted to film all the time. The actors didn't like it because they couldn't talk to another actor. That's why this feels kind of theatrical at times. And the audience might not like it because if the camera swoops, they might start throwing up everywhere, and that could happen. So there's special sets of what you can do when you have a widescreen format like this, how much you can move, how fast you can move a camera, if you can pan or not, how many cuts you can make. It was these restrictions that contributed to my biggest problems with the film. There's lots of talking, and there's very little movement in certain segments. Although I think they said there were just 3, it felt like there were a dozen Debbie Reynolds songs in this. And she's very good, and she's lovely like she was in Singing in the Rain, maybe even a little bit more charming. Sometimes there are theatrical line readings that you would not expect to see in a film. Obvious set-bound pieces. There was a scene, I think it's the Civil War scene with General Grant. It's so definitely a set that I question, why would you waste your time showing this when you have Cinerama? Well, because it let them control what was happening and what was being seen. And then there's a lot of looking around at streets and buildings and moving slowly, like you've never seen a street or a building. This was to show off the Cinerama part of it. And with all of this, again, kind of like Ben-Hur, this feels dated. But knowing now how it was done and why it was done this way, makes a little bit more sense. In the end, I had a pretty good time. This is not the greatest movie ever made, but it was plenty ambitious and terribly fun. I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 amazings! Next time, another damn epic, Dr. Zhivago. Until then, oh, before you go, I did another video that's all about the venue and the circumstances in which I saw How the West Was Won. That'll be in the notes when it's actually up, which hopefully is shortly. Until then, I'm Uncle Tony.